What's going on, YouTube? JT is Reborn here, and welcome back to another edition of my DC comic book reviews. And in this video, we're going to talk about Action Comics, issue number 1066. This is House of Brainiac, Part 5. There's also a backup focusing on Lena and Lex. Joshua Williamson was the writer of this thing with Rava Sandoval and Miguel Mendoza, I think, is the artist on that, and Laura Braga's on the backup thing. But yes, this is Part 5 of 6. They also released Part 6 as well simultaneously. I'm kind of surprised they didn't space this out, like release this one last week and then kind of get to the other issue like this week. But yeah, like House of Brainiac does conclude today, so let's go ahead and talk about what happens in this issue. There's a few flubs here and there, but I think they did mostly a pretty good job with House of Brainiac overall. So at the end of the last issue, the Brainiac Queen was awakened, and of course, you know, she needs energy to feed on, so she's feeding on like the heroes and such. And Brainiac, of course, has been glitching and going through a lot of different issues right now. Like, he's attained so much knowledge that his body, like, he spread himself, like, way too thin. Like, he can't, like, maintain, like, his hold in this world pretty much, like, anymore. Eventually, he's going to die, and despite him, like, attaining as much knowledge as possible. He also uses Lena Luthor as a means to kind of siphon off, like, the workload by kind of having things filter through her, because he's trying to, you know, run his different clones, and he's trying to do the Brainiac Queen, and of course this will eventually kill her, and, you know, it's up to the heroes trying to find a means to stop her. Superboy comes in, does his thing. The Brainiac Queen is kind of seamlessly, like, defeated in a way. It seemed kind of easy to, given all, like, she did with Gazarians, but, you know, everyone's kind of working together. They find a means to stop her, and Brainiac, of course, is kind of malfunctioning, and, like, he goes through, like, his own emotional, like, hurdles, and even, like, his family shows up at one point. This is the one part I was kind of, like, because I thought I remember in a few issues in one of the backups, like, he sent his son somewhere, and then, you know, his mom, you know, was there, but he seems kind of surprised to see her, that she, like, is kind of here, but, like, wouldn't he have known she was in that location where they're at beforehand? But yeah, so of course we get, like, Superman versus Brainiac, and then Lex Luthor comes, and I actually kind of like the moment where Supergirl defends him, because, you know, Luthor is actually, for the first time out, like, you feel a bit of selflessness from Lex Luthor, because he actually, like, genuinely cares about his daughter, and there actually is some pretty good character development for Luthor in this thing. So he has a means to kind of, like, go in to kind of hack into the system to kind of save his daughter, and that's kind of where the main part kind of concludes right here. And yeah, like I said, Williamson was the writer, and Rava Sandoval and Miguel Mendoza. I apologize to butcher that, but my favorite part of the issue actually wasn't the main storyline. It actually was the backup focusing on Lex and Lena Luthor. This is where I actually get some genuinely, like, really good, like, character development with him, because of course Lex built a means to kind of, as like a backdoor into the system. He's got to kind of put himself, like, at risk by, you know, wearing this, you know, Brainiac helmet to kind of, like, get a hold of his daughter. We find out a little bit more. Maybe this could have been, like, placed earlier. Gives us a recap of Lena Luthor, where she's been, and, you know, kind of how their histories are linked together, how Lex had basically traded her for future technology. She also had this issue of rapidly aging, given, like, how her brain's kind of been tampered with, you know, spending that time with Brainiac and such. But he found a means to kind of do so, to kind of stop her from rapidly aging. And as a means to protect her, he sent her off on an island with his mom. And it was something that, it was the only way to kind of keep her safe from Brainiac, and, like, what he could be capable of doing. And there's actually, like, one genuinely kind of nice moment where he talks about that he has to come to the realization he's not the smartest man alive, and there's kind of, like, a few more important things going on right here. And of course the two of them kind of, like, are ultimately still trapped within Brainiac's little machine right there, but he kind of has a means to kind of get out at some point. So I actually like the backup. Like I said, the stuff with Lex Luthor, where it actually feels genuine for the first time, forever they actually kind of cares for something other than, you know, himself. Even though, like, Lex Luthor is a narcissist, you actually genuinely do feel like he wants to change. And I hope it's, I mean, Lex Luthor's an interesting character. I mean, I've seen him as a full-blown villain. I've seen him kind of do heroic things before, and I've seen him kind of in between helping things. But I think at this point, like, I wouldn't, and, you know, I'm somebody who's kind of tired of, like, villains. Like, I kind of miss villains just being villains sometimes. But I mean, Lex Luthor's always been a little more than just a typical villain. Like, he's generally been, I mean, this issue kind of says he's not the smartest man alive, but he's one of the most intelligent characters in all of DC. He has interesting motivations at times. And there's, you know, a lot of the times where he's kind of, like, manipulating others kind of, like, for his own bidding, but this is, like, the first time it really feels genuinely like he's doing something selfless, and I think it actually really does kind of work. The artwork here is really good, and I'm you know, there's some good things in this issue. You know, a few like things that just kind of confused me a bit. Like I felt like Brainiac Queen seemingly kind of got defeated rather easily, especially like, you know, with this power that like kind of like, I mean, it was something set up beforehand, but it feels kind of like an easy way out given all that she just did with the whole like army of Kazarians. I thought it should have been a little bit more of a struggle. There's still one more issue left, and of course, you know, it's got to lead into absolute power as well, so Brainiac Queen isn't fully done, but it did seem like she was defeated a lot quicker than I would have expected. But all those things aside, I do think there is a lot of good within this issue. Like I said, the character work with Lex Luthor, I think in particular, is really kind of the strength of this particular little event story arc. So still good, fantastic looking artwork, like I said, a lot of great action, a lot of eye-popping visuals, and I think the backs up with Lena and Lex, I think, was where the issue was at its strongest, because there actually does feel like there's a genuine like selflessness in Lex Luthor in a way, by like, you know, kind of putting himself on the line for somebody else. Yes, of course, it's also like, you know, it's in a way, it's like him doing this is like, if he doesn't, like I said, it'll backfire on everyone else, because he's got to like protect Lena, and, you know, Brainiac's kind of using her as a means to buffer all this knowledge, like she's eventually going to die, and it could be a risk to everyone else. But there is something kind of selfless about him kind of risking himself for others. So I like that. I actually genuinely really kind of like that, and it'll be interesting to see if kind of this new like Luthor just kind of stays around like this, or they kind of regress him back into full-blown villain. But Lex Luthor's always been kind of interesting. Like, he's never just been like a pure black and white villain. He's one of those characters I feel like you can kind of do some interesting things with. So, and again, I'm somebody who's complained before numerous times about, you know, so many villains can never just be villains anymore. But I'll make a little bit of an exception for Lex, because I feel like his development up to this point has actually really kind of worked. Not saying it should happen with every character, but I think in his case, I think it works for the most part. So what did you think of Action Comics 1066? Post your comments down below. Next up, we're going to talk about the latest issue of Superman, which concludes the House of Brainiac story arc, and then we'll move into some other stuff. So, all right, well, that's all I have to say. As always, take care now. Bye-bye then, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace out.